Karyn Bryant for MMA H.E.A.T. I'm here with Tim Boetsch, who's taking on Costa Philippou at UFC 155. And Tim, first and foremost, I got to ask, how was your Christmas?
Not as good as normal. I had to spend it in training camp, so I didn't get to be with the family this year, which is a sacrifice, but big fight coming up. I couldn't afford to be traveling back and forth across the country, and especially with a big snowstorm, I'm definitely glad I didn't chance it. That being said, we'll celebrate when I get home.
Well, plus that way you can eat and everything too.
Absolutely. Definitely enjoy the holiday food.
So how difficult was it, though? Also, the fact that not only is it Christmas, but this isn't really the fight you wanted. Certainly it's a fight you take, and you know you got to fight to make a living, but initially you were supposed to fight Chris Weidman. So how's that played out on you mentally?
Initially, I was very disappointed. I felt like a Chris Weidman fight. That fight I felt would have determined the #1 contender at the weight class, because there's a lot of people claiming they're the #1 contender. There's a lot of people talking about who it is. I think that fight would have said, hey, the winner of this fight is the #1 contender. So not having that fight, I'm a little disappointed. But, I also, on the other side, feel bad for Chris. He's had a rough year. The end of the year was, obviously a bad one for him, hurricanes and injuries. So I feel for him. Very happy that Costa stepped up. Glad that we were able to make this fight happen, and actually very excited about it. People are definitely have high hopes for him. He's a well-established boxer, shown heavy hands in there, and it's going to be an exciting fight. So even though on paper it's not the #1 contender fight, it's going to be a great fight.
Well, I agree, and I think there's a lot of similarity with you guys, both on a similar win streak, but also in a way flew under the radar until all of a sudden you didn't.
Yeah, and honestly, this fight we're still under the radar, and I think one of us is going to come out shining after this fight, and that's kind of how I looked at the whole training camp. Even though it's not for the #1 contender spot, I want people to be like, okay, this Boetsch guy's for real. He means business in there, and he gets it done. So that's my goal for this fight.
So the other day I was in Australia. That sounds so awesome to say. By the way, it was awesome. Love you, Australia. I'll be back. And I talked with Hector Lombard, who insists that he still won that fight. So looking back, how do you feel about that fight? How do you feel about your performance there?
Well, I think anybody that watched the fight, anybody that actually scored the fight, understands that I won the fight. I know I won that fight. The judges said I won that fight, and Hector seems to be one of the few people pleading the case for himself, obviously. That being said, that's fine. That's what happens. Some fighters do that. I'm looking beyond that. That was a fight I was very happy to win, very happy to end his winning streak for him. And I've moved on. I think he should too. Get some credibility here in the UFC. Beat some top-level guys over here, and then you can start talking. But I hate when people make excuses.
Well, he did look good the other day, so against Polaris. So
yeah, Paul Hurst stood right in front of him, though. Anybody that stands in front of Hector is going to get hurt.
Yes, not a wise move. Before we started rolling cameras here, I was talking to you about making weight. Now, this is your third fight at 185 or fourth?
This will be 5.
Oh, fifth. Yeah. Hi, Karyn, wake up. So how much easier is it getting for you to make this weight?
My body understands when it comes time to cut weight that it needs to start dropping some on its own. So I have adjusted. My set point, body weight-wise, is a little bit lower now. But talking to you now, my mouth is dry. It's never pleasant. But I'd like to believe it's going to be easier, but tomorrow really tells the tale. And hopefully I'm feeling a little bit better when I step on the scale than normal. But right now I feel like I'm on par for the same as it's always been.
Okay, so moving back into the actual fight, though, what do you think is the best strategy against Costa?
Well, on paper, it's a striker versus wrestler. Basic breakdown of the fight would say that I'm going to try and take him down and ground and pound him. But if you look back on my career, you see that's not always my style. I like to stand and trade, and I think it would say something to the fans and to the UFC if I stand and beat up this so-called great boxer that they have, scheduled to fight me on Saturday night. So I'm open to anything.
How do you feel about that spoiler role? Because it's not that they didn't want you to do well, but certainly you, or maybe, I mean, that maybe that
argued either way.
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking, because you certainly have won fights you shouldn't have, or been in positions where you shouldn't be in some people's eyes. So how do you feel about all that?
You definitely look at things and question, what people's motives are, and you certainly look at those things, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what I know I'm capable of doing. I know what I've trained to do. I know what my coach expects of me. I know what the people around me expect of me. And those are the people that I'm fighting for. The people around me care that I win. They believe I'm going to win. I believe that I'm going to win no matter who it is. So that's what I do. I'm going in there to win.
But do you think sometimes the matchmakers or whomever, the powers that be that pull the strings, don't want you to?
I'm not going to say that, but I think sometimes you certainly look at fight matchups and, questions may enter your mind.
All right, I'm going to let you stop before you get into too much trouble here, Tim. I just have to say, it's good for you though for doing well and succeeding, and even when people didn't expect you to, it's got to feel good.
Absolutely. Being the underdog in fights, I certainly enjoy that role, especially when you come out on top. It's a great feeling.
All right, well, thank you very much, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.